It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Flying down from Nova Scotia today.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds.
I have a dream that all men are created equal.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Doom Nation, what's up? We are back once again, and you are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Skaggs and your captain, and we have another great episode for you today. What are we talking about today, Skaggs?
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes, sir. Stags. People call me
Yeah.
Stags all the time for some reason. It's like, it's very hard to say Skaggs for some reason for some people. I don't get it.
Mikey's known you for what, like 10 years now?
Yeah.
Mikey's my cousin. And
Mikey the fantasy nerd who was just on our last episode. Yeah.
Yes. And he probably called you Stags or Stag for 8 out of the 10
I don't
years
even correct him. I love it. He calls everybody the wrong name, though. He called our friend Brian Rich for years. If you remember that. Guy's name's not nowhere near Rich, and he was calling him Rich
because of his Facebook name.
You're right. Yeah. Yep. Good. I love Mikey, man. So we got the war rages on, the stupidity rages on. We're gonna talk a little bit about. Yeah, I know, right? Like it's it's not in the news at all lately, but we've got a couple things we want to point out in regards to the war in Ukraine. We want to talk a little bit about Jussie Smollett. Smollett, as Dave Chappelle.
Juicy,
Juicy Smollett.
Yeah, juicy small dick, eh?
Yeah, we want to talk about a little bit about that. Maybe have a little laugh at his expense.
Yeah,
and you have an interesting local topic that you came across that you wanted to talk about. If you want to talk.
Yes. All right. So Doom Nation, if you are from I can't even say great state, but if you were from the state of New York,
formerly the once great state.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty good. The once great state. This was brought up to me by my godfather. He's not burying bodies in holes in the desert today, so he's fighting City Hall.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Yes. I forget now we're back on YouTube compared to last night. So it's called the Natural Gas Ban Bill, and I believe it's the Senate Bill 6843A. And obviously it's this bill about natural gas and all this stuff. But in the bill, they are secretly trying to interject that they are going to outlaw and stop using natural gas statewide, not just New York City, from all the way up north to Montauk, the end. They don't want any more natural gas. So if this bill was to pass starting in 2023, which is right next year, not far away, any new homes, any new businesses, any new structures built would have to be 100% powered by electricity. No more natural gas. This is going to ruin the HVAC industry, the plumbing industry, steam fitters. They're all going to be super affected by this. Anything new in the city is going to end up being 100% electricity. The price tag for electric is going to go through the roof in the state of New York. Now, this started in California, I believe. You're not even allowed to use like a gas-powered lawnmower or some bullshit, which is just as dumb as it can be. But they're hiding this in this bill, and a lot of people don't know about it. So my godfather's trying to get some awareness out because this affects him and his company directly. We got our buddy Alan from the Great Divide podcast, who he's on it. He actually knew about it because it kind of affects some of his business outside of the podcast industry. So we're just trying to get the word out there. If you're from New York, keep an eye out, call up your representatives, got to vote no on Bill 6843A. The natural gas ban bill. So just a little PSA. We'll probably get into it a little bit more next week. We might, my godfather might come on for a little half hour and, you know, give his spiel and explain in depth what's going on and how it's wrong to be hiding this in the bill. But they're fighting it. So let's help them fight this because it's going to affect us all.
Yeah, man. People always ask, right? What can I do? What can I do?
Yeah.
This, you could do something, right? You could get active and try and oppose terrible legislation that will affect everybody negatively. Again, man, I have fucking like a broken record here. I'm all for clean energy, electricity, electric cars, but the government shouldn't be mandating anything, whether it's masks or the type of a power you get or how you heat your house. The free market should decide all that. Every time the government gets involved in anything like this, they make a fucking mess. They're going to cause a lot of people, obviously the HVAC guys, like you're saying, steam fitters, whoever, they're going to all obviously have a downturn in work, in wages. They're going to get poorer, right? How are you going to afford to build new things if people are poorer because of bad government legislation? So, man,
you're going to build all these new apartments. They're going to be all electrical, but who's going to move in because nobody can afford rent? Because the rent's going to be higher because the building's using more electricity.
Yeah. It's government, man. It's insane how incompetent they are. And New York State is obviously the worst. I'm sure they snuck this into like a 400,000 page bill.
That's exactly what they did.
You'd need, a team of 1,000 lawyers in order to break it down. And by the time you do, it's too late. It's already been passed, So, I mean, that's how they do it. The Senate, the federal government does the exact same thing. I think it was somebody recently proposed an amendment that, I think it was Rand Paul recently proposed some sort of amendment or rule
to fire Fauci.
No, not even that. Like in terms of like reading the fucking bill, he proposed a law that like you have to allow, based on how many pages are, like a certain amount of time in order to read the bills, because they're passing laws that are over 10,000 pages also, and then they bring it to like it's like, here's the bill, we're going to take a vote in 15 minutes, yes or no. How? I mean, that's like Looney Tunes, dude. How do you even operate?
It's nefariously done.
I know it is nefariously done, but I'm saying like any outside observer with a shred of common sense could be like, yeah, that kind of doesn't make sense. Imagine at work, right? If your boss came to you with a 15,000 page, like change to the rule book and was like, we're changing this in 15 minutes. You have any obligation? You have any objections? Let me know. If you do, we'll hash it out. But you only have 15 minutes. It's not logical in any way whatsoever.
And they do this on purpose to hide things like this in these bills. I'm sure Pakistan's going to get another $10 million from New York alone. But, and just Doom Nation, tri-state area, like people who live in blue states, you got to understand, like Skaggs, I get you live in Connecticut. This might not directly affect you. But if New York does it, Connecticut isn't that far down on the list from being like, oh, this is a good way to fuck the people over. Let's do that.
Yeah, in the tri-state area, everybody, the smaller states always follow suit with New York. New York leads, and the other ones follow straight into hell. They'll follow them. Yeah.
Yep.
I know. I oppose bad policy everywhere, dude. It doesn't have to just be in Connecticut anymore. And New York is such a large state anyway, and we spend so much time in it. Yeah, you have to oppose shit like that because it's going to affect you.
Think of, the problem with New York, and I know and I understand your viewpoint of how there's poor, and combined, against my viewpoint of there's poor representation of the people of New York, because 8 million people live on one little convoluted, dirty island, and the rest of the people who live even further upstate past Dutchess County and all that stuff live in a completely different world. Where we go camping, those houses up there, you build a new house up there. I mean, when we get there, there's signs for Albany South, like we're deep up there.
Yeah, but we're not even that deep. That's a southern tier, technically. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how are those houses going to go 100% electric? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, right. It's only the new ones. It's not that you have to convert your house out of nowhere, but you got a new house and you're in the middle of nowhere. It's going to take people out of rural areas as well.
It's going to harm them, of course. So it's going to affect them. Prices are already going up in general anyway, but it's going to affect the market and prices. It's going to affect the price of their electricity in general, right? Because there's going to be a higher demand, like you were saying before, for electricity. On top of the fact that they're trying to push everybody right now into getting an electric car, not a Tesla, though, but an electric car.
Ford or GM.
Everything right now that's going on is just terrible policy, nefariously written in order to just completely destroy us. And good, I'm all for it at this point, as we've talked about lately.
And anybody,
the only way out of this maybe is complete collapse. So, but go ahead.
Yeah. And anybody who questions this, we're not climate deniers. We're not, trying to make the environment worse. It's just that this isn't
quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah, this isn't a logical solution. B, it's not going to be any cheaper. Okay, you voted out the mean tweets. Look at what happened to gas. If you think electricity is going to like go down because you're out of your mind. All right. And what we were saying last night with Sergeant and Samurai, like, it's just not good that the government has the power to press the button and go poof, nothing in your house works now. You now live in essentially a cardboard box.
Yeah, we're not climate deniers, dude. I do think climate change is possibly real. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, just like I don't know about COVID, right? I think it's a good idea to have, electrical stuff and cleaner air, cleaner water, and all those things. That's great, right? But the free market will solve all those things in time, the correct way, and it'll lift people out of poverty when it does so. Instead, by the government getting involved and forcing things, they're going to make people poorer along the way, and poorer people will not be able to solve the ingenuity, the figuring out the problems to make these things more efficient. Because if you have if you're fucking burning logs in your backyard because you can't eat and you can't afford to do anything, how the fuck are you going to figure out how to make a Tesla more efficient or become the next engineer at the company that's going to figure it out? They don't understand.
And how long until
you can't force that shit?
Yeah. I think they might have started it in Connecticut too. How long until you're not allowed to burn wood in your backyard?
Yeah, there's been fucking proposals for laws like that they want to outlaw
wood burning
stoves and things like that. I mean, get the fuck out of here! Come on,
something
humans have been doing forever. On the grand scheme of things, people burning little tiny wood logs for like novelty purposes, like I do at this point.
Yeah,
it's zero effect on the fucking environment.
Dude,
Doom Nation, what is up? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. You can hear us where all major podcasts are found, and you can also find us everywhere Trump is banned. IG is @2DoomMen_podcast, Twitter is @MenDoomed, and our Facebook is @2DoomedMen. And the fastest way to find us everywhere is through linktree.com/2DoomMen. Thank you, Doom Nation. Have a great day.
This country is doomed. It is doomed.
Oh man, I just lost my train of thought, unfortunately.
I say they want to ban, to tie us into the next point. They want to ban wood burning stoves, but the United States military is the largest polluter in the world, and they're all for fucking funding the fuck out of that.
Right. And I was just gonna say, I tell this to people now. I was like, the state just can't leave well enough alone. They can't. It's just something they cannot do. Down to you're burning wood in a stove, and we don't want you to do that. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, how much more simple should I stop collecting pops? Do you not want me to collect pops?
Well, maybe it's plastic and it's bad for the environment. It's
maybe at night I shouldn't put on my salt lamp, or should I stop using Xbox and switch to PlayStation? Like, how minute can we get? How big does government want to get? You know what I'm saying? Like,
nothing, and you'll be happy. You'll eat the bugs.
You know what though? But
you'll live in a van. You'll have nothing, and you'll be happier than you ever were before.
But think of it though, like, even at that point, like, there's going to be that 1% of mutants that scour this earth that are like, this is great, but it's not going to be enough for the government. Soon, like, it's eventually going to be like, you will have this haircut. You will only write with your right hand. Like, left-handed people just fuck off. Like, you're not allowed to
face the wall.
Yeah. Like, well, yeah, before, eventually it gets to that. But like, once you're living in the pod and watching the porn and eating the bugs and not procreating, they're going to find something else that they can encroach on. It doesn't matter. You can only take X number of breaths a day. You can only blink X number in an hour.
Yeah, right. Imagine that. Yeah, you've
blinking tax.
You've reached your breath quota of the day. You have to hold your breath now, and they'll just eliminate people that way. Just people.
Just start strangling.
And the sheep will do it. You'll see people just, 1,500 people suffocated to death today. It's an emergency. Quick, pass more emergency laws because the government needs emergency power because people are suffocating to death, and it's all because of the rules that they made.
Yeah, blue check mark people dropping dead from suffocating.
Yeah, man. All right, so I wanted to give a little update on the war in Ukraine. Obviously, this is a big issue. We are on the brink of World War III, and I wanted to hear from the president, who spoke a couple of days ago in regards to this, and hear what he had to say. One sec.
Every inch of NATO territory, every single inch, with a united, galvanized NATO. One movement. That's why I moved over 12,000 American forces along the borders with Russia, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Romania, etc. Because they move once. Granted, if we respond, it is World War III, but we have a sacred obligation on NATO territory, a sacred obligation, Article 5. And we will not, although we will not fight the Third World War in Ukraine. Putin's war against Ukraine was never be a victory. Democrats are rising to meet the moment, rallying the world on the side of peace and security. We're showing a strength and we'll never falter. But look, the idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III, okay? Let's get it straight here, guys. That old expression, don't kid a kidder.
Hold on, before you jump into this. First off, I love the whispering. I don't know where along this man's long career as a politician has his aides been like, you know what you should try and do today? You should try and whisper into the mic. This is going to be a quality act. I have to give him credit.
Don't kid a kidder, Jack.
Yeah. I have to give him credit though. Like, yeah, it would be World War III. At least he's getting that straight. But the two things that bother me in that little speech is it's our sacred oath to protect NATO.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I love it. Now I don't point with me. I didn't even have to say
religious.
anything.
Yeah. God created this oath that we must oblige by for NATO and Lord Fauci. Praise be COVID. You know, and then the other one was Democrats are uniting us together to promote peace. Where?
Mm-hmm.
Where? What planet? Is there a different social media that I'm not using anymore? Is it on TikTok since we got kicked off? Where are they promoting this piece?
Yeah, it might be right. They're meeting with the TikTok influencers to spread propaganda. Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, I too agree. He's right. You know, like, yes, American soldiers or American pilots, American planes are going to be World War III if they get involved in Ukraine. No fucking shit. So he's right there. And I do think he actually has to say that because there is a tremendous push from establishment Democrats, shitlibs, right, for a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And it doesn't sound like a declaring war, declaring a no-fly zone, but it is a declaration of war. If you say we are going to take our Air Force and enforce a no-fly zone over another country which is actively involved in a war with Russia, you are saying we're going to take our fighter pilots and any Russian plane that flies into the airspace of Ukraine, we are going to shoot them down. That is a declaration of war. So even as dumb as fucking Biden is, he understands that, and he actually has to say that to maybe slightly put it into perspective. I mean, I'm going to hammer him later, but it's a little perspective. I just saw a post before we came on. It was in Lower Manhattan, and people are putting up billboards, like on, you know how people put up billboards on like the construction sites, like advertisements and things like that. And it's like, stand with Ukraine and, call for a no-fly zone. I mean, those are pro-war posters that are going up. And they're going up, like I said, from shitlibs. That's Lower Manhattan, the fucking establishment, liberal, elite white person, capital of the world. Go ahead.
Yeah. So our marketing department today for her real life job went down to cover a protest and said, what are you going to the city to protest? She's like, the war. And I was like, what does this have to do with your job? And blah, 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 blah. There's people associated with us that were in the Holocaust. And I was like, wait a minute. There's Holocaust survivors that you're going to interview right now that are protesting, getting involved in the war.
So they're protesting in favor of getting involved.
That's what I'm pretty sure. It wasn't an anti-war protest, as far as I understand. Holocaust survivors are protesting that we won't go help the Ukrainian neo-Nazis.
Right. And let's be clear, if you haven't heard us make this point before, there is a battalion of Ukrainian soldiers called the Azov Battalion. They are legacy members of the Nazi Party. They're related to Stepan Bandera and those guys in the 40s, and their legacy has continued to this day. They're like National Guard, I guess you could say, in Ukraine. That doesn't mean, I mean, this point, I was thinking about this lately, right? And a lot of people don't even make this point because they think it's a point that doesn't need to be made, and you don't have to explain yourself to these fucking retards. But I think, honestly, you do at this point. That doesn't mean that all Ukrainian people are neo-Nazis, or that's not even the right word, Nazis, right? They're not. The Azov Battalion is a very small, tiny minority of the military and percentage of the population in general. However, they are a percentage, and they are a part of the Ukrainian military, and we are already arming them. I've seen many, many photographs of them holding Javelin rocket launchers, which are American-made, and other American weapons. They are using them. So they are being armed. They are being funded by John Q. taxpayer, by Holocaust survivors, apparently, are backing up actual legacy Nazis. People that looked to exterminate them off the face of the fucking earth, they are supporting those people. And if you try and point that out, this is what happened to us lately, right?
Yeah.
I found a picture,
shadow band, right?
I found a picture on, might have been the New York Times. It was of a Ukrainian soldier. And I noticed something odd. I looked at his patch on his body armor, and I zoomed in, and it's the Nazi black sun. It's anybody could look it up. I'm not going to put it up on YouTube because then we'll get fucking shadow banned here. It's a Nazi symbol from the 1940s, and the Azov Battalion has incorporated it into their iconography. I posted this on our Instagram, and it got pulled down saying that we're sharing hateful images and promoting hate speech. And I wrote in the post, anybody who was, saw it, fucking could read it. I was trying to point out that these guys are Nazis and this is bad. But we got pulled down. Now,
I'm not saying Russia's good.
Right. I'm not saying
Russia's good.
I haven't even got to that point yet. But our Instagram is now essentially banned. Anything we do on there, anything we post is not reaching anybody. It's completely fucked. Hold on. It's because we're against Nazis.
Yeah. So if you're still listening, and you do follow us on Instagram, go to @2domen_backup. It's our backup page. If you already follow it, you've probably noticed there's more stories coming out of there. For the time being, we have no other choice. We're going to have to operate from the backup account. So go on Instagram, 2domen_backup, and give us a follow.
Yeah. If you're on Twitter, also follow me, Skags89. I do majority of my posting there. We are on Truth Social now.
Yes.
As well, Trump's new platform, 2 Doom Men Podcast. So if you happen to get, past the queue, which we finally did, follow us on there. I mean, it really is. It's maddening. Obviously, we've said it before. What Putin is doing is insane and terrible. Normal people die in war, right? And that's who's going to suffer. Putin ain't going to suffer. Joe Biden ain't going to suffer. Zelensky, he ain't going to suffer. He's going to come out of this a fucking hero. This is going to be the best thing that ever happened to Zelensky. It's the state, man. They'll crush you in pursuit of just them, like their clique.
It's the one thing they're good at, like you said.
Destroy, dude. They're good at destroying shit. Anything else, they fuck up and they ruin everything.
Yeah.
And anything that they try and say that's like we need clean energy because we have to save the planet. They're gonna fucking destroy the planet in their pursuit of clean energy. But going back to this, right? Something I read a really good article and I want to read this. This is from antiwar.com. This is Scott Horton's website. Him and a couple other guys.
I think I saw him post some of this stuff today or the other day.
It's a great website. They do great. This is real journalism, real articles, real news, great stuff. This is from, I want to give him credit. This is from Dave DeCamp a couple days ago. And title is, "The U.S. is still not trying diplomacy with Putin to stop fighting in Ukraine. As Russia's invasion of Ukraine enters its third week, It's actually fourth week now after a couple of days. There is no sign that the Biden administration is attempting high-level diplomacy with Moscow as a way to possibly end the fighting. The Washington Post reported on Thursday that Biden administration doesn't see the conflict ending anytime soon, and that its current strategy is to impose economic pain on Russia and support Ukraine's military in its effort to inflict as many defeats on Russia as possible. It's clear at this point that the Western sanctions were factored into Russian President Vladimir Putin's decision to attack Ukraine, as they haven't done anything to deter him. But U.S. officials say they are in no rush to engage directly with Putin. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken claimed that in the months leading up to the invasion, the U.S. gave Putin possible off-ramps. But during the negotiations, the U.S. ignored Putin's key demands. Putin wanted a guarantee that Ukraine wouldn't ever join NATO, and even though President Biden said Kyiv will not be joining the military alliance anytime soon, the U.S. refused to make the promise. Now Russia has said it will stop its assault if Ukraine declares neutrality, recognizes Crimea as a Russian territory, and recognizes the independence of the breakaway Donbas Republic. Instead of supporting negotiations on these terms that could lead to a possible ceasefire, the U.S. is working with its NATO allies to flood weapons into Ukraine, as you heard President Biden saying earlier in his video. Anthony Blinken said on Wednesday that the Biden administration expects a strategic defeat of Russia in Ukraine, despite Moscow's short-term gains. We'll accomplish this by backing Ukrainians in their fight, by remaining united and holding Russia accountable through devastating sanctions, the diplomatic isolation, and other measures. While Blinken says the U.S. expects a Russian defeat in Ukraine, Biden officials told the Post that they don't see a clear end to military phase of this conflict, meaning the U.S. expects a long, bloody insurgency in Ukraine and is willing to support it. What did we just say before I started reading this? That the government loves when you die. They love when destroying things. That's what they're doing here. They're going to destroy Ukraine. So is Putin. He's doing the same thing. But so are we. I've been talking for a while, so go ahead.
We just got out of a 20-year war, and what are we going to do? Start another 20-year war. I pointed this out to somebody the other day. So, Biden and the administration and the U.S. have no interest in hearing any of Putin's demands, right? And something you said stuck with me. You only negotiate with your enemies. You only make peace with your enemies. So off the bat, that brought me back to George Bush's famous, "We don't negotiate with terrorists." So you're saying you just want to keep fighting them then? Because you don't, and I pointed this out to people, where people were like, oh, but we keep sanctioning Russia, we got to sanction them more. I was like, okay, you think Putin, and for the most part Putin is a psychotic maniac killer. I said, would you corner a ravenous dog? No. Why? Because the dog would lash out at you. So why would you think cornering a psychopathic killer who runs a country and has access to nuclear weapons is the smart thing to do? Like, this man isn't going to lash out. But back to Bush's point, we don't negotiate with terrorists. That's what kept this war going on for 20. Well, it's not what kept it on, but it's what helped prolong it. You only make peace with your enemies. There's no negotiating between allies and friends. There's no peacetime efforts. How many peacetime efforts are we doing with France and the UK right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to negotiate, which the opposite end of that is you want to fight. You want to stay and fight. You want this to escalate. You want your military contracts to bring in the big bucks. So
what they want, right, of course, right, they need the justification because the military budget is over $700 billion, and they have all those military industrial complex businesses that they got to keep lining the pockets of. What they want is exactly what you said before. They want Afghanistan. We just went through 20 years of insurgency in Afghanistan, and we suffered for it, right? We took losses. We spent a ton of money. They want Russia to go through that now in Ukraine. They want a 20-year war of insurgency against Russia that we can sell the weapons to the Ukrainians, and the Russians will mount heavy losses over the course of 20 years. And again, the Russians recently went through this, right? Well, maybe not recently, but almost in our lifetime, right? Where as me and you were born, they invaded the same place. They invaded Afghanistan. The Soviet Union at the time in the late 80s invaded Afghanistan. And what did we do when that happened, right? We armed the Afghanis. We armed a group of Saudis who were in Afghanistan. Who was that? Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. We armed them to fight against the Soviet Union. And they inflicted tremendous losses against the Soviet Union. Part of the reason why the Soviet Union fell apart, bankrupted them. The war was a terrible decision on their part, just like this is going to be a terrible decision on Russia's part in general. The thing is, who did we end up fighting 20 years later? Al-Qaeda. I mean, this whole thing reminds me of if you ever listen to Dave Smith's podcast, right? The opening intro of it, it's like, you want to know who America's next enemy is? Look at who we're funding now. Every time Dave Smith's podcast starts, that quote that he says is said, like in the opening scroll. And that's essentially, in my opinion, what's going to happen here, right? And who's going to be the enemy? Who are the people that we're funding right now? The Azov Battalion, actual fucking Nazis, ideological lunatics, that their ideology is to eliminate people who don't look like them, who are not the master race. We're now arming them, funding them, etc. I hope that they're a casualty of this war, right? I hope that the Russians wipe them out, or, you know, there's just none of them left after, because they're the normal Ukrainians win out in the end of the day. But man, I mean, how fucked would it be if you know, Ukraine's able to repel this Russian attack, and then in the aftermath afterwards, like the Azov Battalion, the fucking actual Nazis there overthrow Zelensky's government and they seize power, and now you have an actual Nazi fucking state in between NATO and Russia. I mean, am I talking out of my ass? Am I talking, you know, out of turn? Maybe that won't happen, right? They are a minority, but it's not out of the realm of impossibility. Or whatever,
you think,
right? And then they'll be fucking blowing up our buildings in the future because
what do you think? The 80s was that 30 years ago when we were arming Al-Qaeda? People were like, I bet you in 10, 15, 20 years, they're going to rise up and start committing acts of terror. Nobody was thinking that. You know, learn from your past, people. Learn from your past. These are all the same. This year is going to be talking about like all the same playbooks that we've seen, you know, Cold War era stuff, tricking people, you know, Orange Man bad, you know, anti-vax bad, Russia man bad. It's just going to keep going. You're going to see the same playbook, and here we are again.
Yeah, even getting back to Biden's speech before too, I don't understand. I mean, yes, he was right in saying that, like, us getting involved, like, you put our bodies in there, it's going to be World War III. But I mean, like, the government, like, lawyers speak logic. It's like, well, you know, we can't send our own troops in there, but we could send javelin launchers, and we could, you know, give weapons and things to Ukrainians. Like, that's not an act of war in a sense as well. Imagine if we're beefing with my neighbor, right? And I have an AK-47, right? And my neighbor has a couple AK-47s, and you guys I'm standing on my neighbor's front porch, and you guys are handing me rocket launchers, right? Or you're mailing them to me. They're coming in shipment boxes, and I'm unloading all these rocket launchers. You think my neighbor is going to be happy with you guys for backing me up and see you guys? No, they're going to see you guys as their best friend and everything. I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
it's, you know, I mean, you could just say things and they don't mean anything here. Why can't we just sit down with Putin and be like, look, this is fucked. Let's figure it out, and let's go from there.
It's two things. One's a conspiracy theory, but
go for it.
You know,
it's a rhetorical question, I guess, at the end of the day.
I know it really is, but they don't want to sit down. The puppeteers that pull the strings, that pull Biden's strings. We've talked about it. The World Economic Forum, all those people from the World Economic Forum, all the people we don't trust, all the people we always point and be like, they're lying to you. They're telling you the truth with what they want to do to you. They're all in favor of this. And then collectively, all these corporations pull out of Russia, like we were talking about the other day, and just negating their contracts just to punish the people of Russia who aren't doing anything. You know, a
lot of them have been right. A lot of them have been like, you know, protesting
against it.
Yeah, I saw one video of a woman who just like walked onto a news broadcast in Russia with like a sign like "No War." Wow, balls on that woman. She's probably fucking strung
6
up
feet
in
under
hell now or something.
She's on her way to the Siberia or whatever right now.
I mean, one thing these shitty situations will show you, man, is like there's legit brave people out there.
Yeah,
that are.
There's always going to be people.
Yeah,
and it's Klaus Schwab's job to find them
and to erase them from existence.
Yeah, and erase them.
Yeah,
but they're not interested in peace. They want their war. whatever Ukraine has that the NWO is protecting, you know, they don't want Russia demolishing it, figuring it out. The whole conspiracy theory of there's no biolabs, American funded biolabs in Ukraine, that conspiracy lasted not even 7 days, not even one full week. So whatever is there, they don't, you know, they don't want to lose.
I mean, and that is just a hysterical situation that's going on that we haven't really gotten a chance to talk about. But yeah, you know, in the beginning, it was like, you know, there's all these biolabs, and when we're talking about biolabs. We don't know exactly what they are. We don't know exactly what's in them. I made the point to you, I'm like, they could be studying algae in them, right? Who knows? But at the beginning, there was no biolabs, right? But now there is biolabs. And then they were saying, well, you know, there's nothing dangerous in there. But then they were saying, you know, there's, you know, we don't want it to fall into Russian hands. And now they're saying there's no biolabs again, essentially. I mean, they changed their tune on this, the State Department, so many times. It could be that there really is nothing there. It could be it could be some research on some meaningless thing, like fucking bacteria, like a bacteria culture on some meaningless thing that scientists do all this shit all the time. Could be nothing, but like, just tell the fucking truth and stop. Like, if it really is nothing, just say it from the onset. And then you literally give fire to people, to the conspiracy theorists, right behind the shit, because you keep fucking lying and then changing your story one day after one day to the next. I think you said it was like 6 days from the fact we found out about them to the fact that we, you know, it was proven essentially that there are labs there that are U.S. funded.
Yeah, I saw on Gab somebody was like, if you want to conduct a good psyop operation, you got to put in a little bit of truth. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, true. To keep people on the hook, there's got to be, it's got to be like at least 90-10. You know what I mean? It can't be 100% propaganda and just changing your tune nilly-willy. You're going to lose people. It's a poor game that you're playing.
Yeah, it applies to everything, and then applies especially to something that I'm always critical about, and that's QAnon stuff, right? If you want to run a major psyop on people, there's got to be a little bit of truth, and it doesn't discount the fact that those things are true. But, you know, is the rest true? Who knows? You know, that's always been my criticism. And
tomorrow we'll find out.
Yeah, we will find out tomorrow. Going back to this thing again, another thing Biden said was that what did he say about Democrats? Like, Democrats have been strong and uniting on this and opposition
and advocating for peace.
Right, advocating, you know, because again, you know, everything's upside down. Peace is war, war is peace. You know, debt is not debt. You know, racists are not racist. The budget. Everything. So he says that Democrats are, you know, he's trying to spin it as the Democrats are in opposition to Russia and they're leading the charge in peace and war and all this bullshit. They just passed an omnibus spending bill. $14 billion of it is going into funding Ukraine in the war. It fights and to help them fight off a Russian invasion, right? $4 billion of it is to help displaced refugees. $6.5 billion is for military assistance, and $1.8 billion for any macroeconomic needs. Whatever they want, anything. Any
money laundering
needs, according to the House Committee on Appropriations. The thing is, you know who was out there touting this as not being enough and not doing enough? Mitch McConnell and the Republicans.
Really?
He gave a speech right after this was passed about how, look at what we did. Look what the Republicans did. We were able to get $14 billion, and it was the Democrats who weren't able to come to the table to appropriate more money and, you know, to help Ukraine and whatnot. That's what you're voting for, folks. That's what you're voting for. You know, the people who are over here having the, you know, look, I didn't think the border wall was a great idea, but what was it? $4 billion?
That Trump, I think 5, 6. Yeah.
Right. They just gave $14 billion to Ukraine like that. The Republicans like that.
Yeah. Right? And we have a problem at our border.
And it's so funny because they're both saying the same. They're in agreement, but they're still pretending like they're not. McConnell saying it's the Democrats that are not working with us on this. And Biden saying, no, it is the Democrats. We're leading the charge on it. They're both doing the same thing. Yeah. It's the left and the right wing of the same bird. It's all that is. Man, I mean, it's fucking frustrating, dude. It really is. If you want like Medicare for all or a lot of those socialist policies, well, they just gave $14 billion to Ukraine for nothing. Yeah. If you want a wall, well, they just gave $14 billion and you had no fucking say.
All the people that were promised their college debt was going to get paid off. 14. We don't have money. We don't have money to fix college debt, but we got 14 billion for Ukraine.
Yeah, just like
and
that.
that's just the month of March.
Right.
By summertime, if this keeps going, and it's going to be a long, bloody battle, as Biden said, there's going to be more. That 14 billion is going to get used up real quick, and then it's going to be 27 billion or something.
Yeah.
This is just the first one of many.
I was saying, when he predicted a winter of death for everybody, I thought he was talking about COVID, but he's talking about Ukrainians and possibly everybody in a nuclear fire, a nuclear winter,
dark winter.
Maybe. Yeah, man. Dark winter. Right. So, I mean, it's obviously it's insane. The entire government is in alignment here in being involved in this war and funding this war. And it just, take this as a learning experience. Don't get conned by these people. Right. They're all
support
together.
The only people that need to be supported are the citizens of Ukraine and the citizens of Russia. This is just several nut job world leaders battling it out and using their media to create the fog of war. And soldiers' lives are being taken, and life in Ukraine isn't good. Life in Russia isn't good. Life in America with inflation and gas prices isn't good. Whoever you're rooting for, they're not making your life any better.
Yeah,
they're not. This isn't about Russia man bad.
It's not. They hate us, dude, and they're playing everybody. And people, it's one of the most frustrating things. People like playing right into it. They're supporting that shit. And this has become we kind of talked about this in Sergeant Samurai yesterday. This has become somewhat of a bipartisan thing of like your square-jawed Republican is now in alignment with like your establishment shitlib that we got to go in there and we got to stop them, boys. Like it's a new random alliance has formed, and it's so frustrating. I said this last night. Like it's the people who for 2 years were like, the COVID regime, it's tyranny, and they just fucked us over with Trump and all this stuff. Now they're like, we got to go get them, boys, and they're allies with shitlibs. What the fuck? That's a black pill, dude. I mean,
to be honest, I think it's part of the plan. They, they knew one side of the aisle was going to fight against COVID, and they demonized them. And they know there's a majority of people who are weak that are going to follow whatever the news says. So the media comes out, you must support Ukraine. All the sheep run to support Ukraine.
All the flags on the Facebook profiles.
But now it's war. Now we're supporting war. We're not supporting vaccine mandates. We're not supporting Fauci, and we have a bad guy. So now it's almost like a reverse psyop to get like the weak people on the right to get those war hawk engines revved up to lie to them too. Like this is pretty well planned out.
Yeah, it is
pretty well planned. And I said it to you. I'm starting to get concerned. Like none of these psyops work on me. Like what's wrong with me?
Once you've taken a red pill, you can't go back. Cypher proved
once you look past that curtain, behind the curtain, there's no going back.
So yeah, man. I mean, let's have a little fun now. That was pretty miserable as always. War is horrific and it's a shitty situation. Let's have a little fun.
Now, Jussie Smollett,
Jussie Smollett's his misery. So if you haven't heard, Jussie Smollett, he was sentenced to 150 days in jail and 30 months of probation for lying to police and staging a hate crime. If you don't remember, this was a couple years ago at this point now.
2 to 3 years ago, right around George Floyd.
Yeah, he's a famous actor, I guess you could say, on that show Empire, 50 Cent's show. And he's a woke social justice warrior. And he staged essentially a fake attack against himself of like Trump supporters that beat him up and tried to put a noose around his head. Completely false. He paid the guys. The whole thing is blown up completely. So he is sentenced again, as I said, in court. And I think let's play the sentencing video here because it's interesting.
And then I got something to say about this sentence to talk about to compare.
I'm fashioning the following sentence, and here's your sentence. I'm sentencing you to 30 months felony probation, and the probation is going to be to this court. You're going to be allowed to travel wherever you want. You do not have to live in the state of Illinois. You can report by phone. I know that if you're going to try to make a living and do some of the things you do. You may have to go to other places, New York and Los Angeles. You can do those things. You will pay restitution to the city of Chicago in the amount of $120,106. You are fined $25,000, which is the maximum fine, and you will spend the first 150 days of your sentence in the Cook County Jail, and that will start today, right here, right now. Mr. Smollett, though the jury found you guilty and I've sentenced you as I have, you have the right to appeal the findings and rulings of the court or ask your sentence be modified. To do those things, you need to file a notice of appeal in writing within 30 days. You may also file a motion to modify your sentence, which would have to be filed in writing within 30 days. Anything not stated in those filings are waived for purposes of appeal. You cannot afford lawyers or transcripts. They would be provided free of charge. Do you have any questions?
No, I would just like to say to Your Honor that I am not suicidal. That's what I would like to say.
Okay.
I am not suicidal.
Okay.
I am not suicidal. I am innocent, and I am not suicidal. If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of Black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community. Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this, and I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself, and you must all know that. I respect you, Your Honor. I respect your decision. Jail time. I am not suicidal.
So, war is peace. Inflation is not inflation. Racist or not racist. I did this, but I didn't do it.
Right.
According to Jussie Smollett.
First off, he's found guilty because I'm pretty sure the guys he paid to beat him up sold him down the fucking river, first and foremost. So you did do this. You did. Yeah. And the guys you hired were Black. So are those, secret white supremacists or something?
They're the Black white supremacists.
Yeah, the Black white supremacists with, that eat the black and white cookies all day. And they're lying that you paid them to kick your ass. First off, the sentencing is pretty fair, I'd say. The maximum sentence that he could have got was 3 years in prison plus fines. He's getting 30 months in prison, which is almost 30 months.
30 months. No,
it's 30 months probation.
Right. Okay.
But the first 150 days are going to be in prison. That part sucks. He also has to pay $145,000 in fines. That I don't know what he's making on Empire. He might be making $1 million an episode.
I'm sure he can afford it.
But it's still I think it's a hefty fine. But he has been ranting and raving that this decision was based on the color of his skin and that this is all racist and he's only going to jail because he's Black. Bro, you are on federal probation and you could go anywhere you want. You have to check in by a phone. I guarantee you we could put a few feelers out on our Instagram page and get several people who are on federal probation be like, yeah, I couldn't leave the state. I couldn't be caught outside after a certain time. I couldn't check in through phone. I had to be drug tested weekly. I could promise you there was a million other laundry list items that white people who are on federal probation have to do that this man does not have to do.
I'll give you a laundry list that Black African-American men were much harsher sentences for much lighter things that he did, like smoking weed and shit like that. Come on, dude. He's an elite, and he was given the sentence an elite is given.
Yeah, he got a slap on the wrist. And have you heard what's transpired since then?
A little bit, but good.
So which is just so ridiculous to even as a lawyer, I get it. He's an elitist, and I'm sure this lawyer has amazing connections and clients and stuff. But as a lawyer, to put your career on the line and come out publicly and demand the immediate release of your client from prison because there could be health issues. There's people leaving threatening voicemails to his family members. His family members are receiving hate. People are saying that they're going to kick his ass and rape him in prison and stuff. That's what happens to people in prison. Right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're not the only one, but they're demanding the immediate release based on these threats that are against him and that he could get sick in prison. Could you imagine if this judge is like, oh, okay, I swear I'd stop following the laws just because the second I get sentenced, I'd have my lawyer demand my immediate release. Then it doesn't work this way.
It's not out of the realm of possibility, because there's a different set of. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, I don't think so either.
Because there's a different set of rules for elitists compared to your normal African American or your normal white person. Your average Joe that goes to jail because they were fucking selling weed on the corner or whatever. They're going to jail. They're getting the book thrown at them.
People are still in prison for selling marijuana in states that have legalized marijuana years ago. Yeah. Okay. Imagine sitting in a cell for the last 3 years while people are out there smoking, and you're in there because you got caught the day before it was all legalized and decriminalized. Give me a break.
It's funny, like, I don't care about the government getting revenge here, like recouping money. I kind of like the fact that he cost the government some money, right? I hate the fucking government. However, he caused damage, dude. He caused tensions, racial tensions, in a time where tensions were already high, and he fabricated the entire fucking thing. And let's be honest, it was for his own self-interest. He doesn't really care about social justice. If he did, he wouldn't do something as despicable as he did, because all that does is make race relations and things like that even worse. He did it to amplify his own brand. Now he's I had no idea who he was, right, until this happened. I don't watch Empire, right? I guess if you watch Empire, you knew. But now he's like a household name because he did it. He might act like he's mad. He might act like, woe is me. This is all racist. This is all bullshit. He's fucking excited.
But and after his 150 days are up, he's got it made in the shade.
Oh my God, the book deal. He's coming back on Empire, and they're gonna write it into the story. All this shit.
On top of it,
documentary made. Forget it.
So the little thing that took my attention is his whole crying of, "I'm not suicidal. I'm not suicidal." I believe, he did this for himself, but like, why are you saying that? What do you know? I can't let anything go out of the realm of possibility.
He's trying to trick you. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right? He's trying to trick you because he knows people with the whole Epstein thing. Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past Jussie Smollett to fucking fake killing himself in the thing and be like, look, they tried to kill me.
How much you want to bet
let me out of jail?
How much you want to bet the threatening phone calls are fake?
Right. I mean, the whole predication of the entire thing he did was fucking acting. He made up a fake scenario. Isn't that amazing?
Like,
he's gonna do it again.
It's funny, the story of the little boy who cried wolf. Yeah. Like, now look at where this is led. Like, people think you faked the phone call. People are thinking you're gonna fake killing yourself in jail. Like, nothing you do now, people are gonna think you're doing it for real, which has got to be a curse in itself. But when you're an elite and nothing, sticks to you, it don't matter.
When most people don't live in reality to begin with, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can cry wolf as much as you want, and people, will go, like sheep to the slaughter.
Yeah.
They keep coming. So,
the pleasure of social media.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, look, it is what it is. It's funny.
It's so pathetic. It's funny. Yeah, it's laughable.
I guess he kind of got what he deserved in the end. Don't do shit like that. We've got enough problems as it is. We don't need elitist Hollywood actors making things worse for common folk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then getting off with what you got when you talk about your social justice warrior. Meanwhile, your brothers and sisters are getting it 10 times worse for things that were less than what you did.
He's not. So, I hope people see through that shit, man. I really do.
Yeah. They won't. They won't. They can't see past his skin color. I hate to say it. He's got it. He's trying to make, and it's ridiculous to say because we know the state's not going to change and black people are still going to go to prison. He's trying to make his skin color get out of free jail card. You know what I'm saying?
For himself,
it's not that. Yeah, for himself. It ain't going to help anyone else. It might help him, but nothing's going to change for anyone else.
Just like the Black Lives Matter organization in general. It's only for the people in charge to better themselves. It doesn't actually help anybody.
Buy 5-6 homes and a yacht.
I just saw one of in Boston. One of the leaders of the movement there, was heralded as a hero by the Boston Celtics, and in 2020. And today, she was charged with 18 counts of embezzlement, criminal conspiracy, etc., because of what she's done with the funds and whatnot. I mean,
Isn't it?
Wash, rinse,
Isn't it
repeat with the people in charge of the organization. They're Marxist, criminals. That's all they are.
Isn't it amazing that GoFundMe got BLM billions of dollars,
Right.
and they didn't take a second look to see where any of this money was going? No Black lives have been improved, and now several. We're not talking one or the one. We're talking several leaders of different chapters have been dropping like flies. They're either getting caught buying multiple $1 million homes in predominantly white neighborhoods, or they're getting charged with embezzlement or some type of crime,
or they're shooting fucking political candidates right in their office.
Yeah, or they're showing up shooting people. But if you sent your bank account was frozen and you were to be investigated.
Right. Yeah.
The world we live in, people.
Like, look, I mean, we'll end it here. One of the main points we made I made at least on Sergeant and Samurai last night is like, stop assuming these people say what they believe in and that they're being honest, right? When you see any of this stuff and you're like, I can't believe this. No, believe it, right?
Yeah.
Because these are people that are just, the only thing they are fucking concerned with is power. And they will call you a racist and call anything a racist or until they have control of everything. And that's the fucking game. The fucking sooner you figure that out for yourself, the sooner you stop being like bewildered at how this could possibly happen.
Yeah.
And you start realizing that a lot of these people are nefarious. That is their intention. They're not good people. The better off you are. I think we ended there.
Yeah, I'm good with that, man. All right, Doom Nation, we hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We have some other episodes coming down the pipeline. We're working on a couple of cool guests, maybe some Army vets, maybe some socialists. Who knows who will swing by Two Doomed Men. Make sure to check us out on your Roku device, the Patriot Podcast Network. There's tons of other dope shows on there. We're on there. There's a 24-hour live stream. It's basically the Netflix of political podcasts and conspiracy theories. It's really not an echo chamber. Everybody's got a different opinion. So it is Patriot Podcast Network on your Roku. And as always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Skaggs, anything else?
If you're watching this, happy St. Patrick's Day, because that's the day that I'm going to be releasing it on. If you want to come hang out with us, we will be at the McLean Avenue parade in Yonkers.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be there having a couple of drinks, celebrating. Everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Look for the two drunk fools.
Yes. All right, everybody.
Adios.